We need an internal revival to restore the spirit of the people. All the government legislation in the world, all the government reforms in the world, all the money in the world cannot restore what has been taken from the people and left them as residual cripples, having little confidence in themselves, having little motivation, plagued with alcoholism, plagued with indifference, passivity, lacking in energy and direction. Unless we can rebuild the spirit of this great nation, we have no future. There will surely be a bloodbath as the East followeth the West. It is the people who must believe in their future. And my people in this country, numbering some 30 million, have been robbed of a balanced equilibrium within their personality, and it must be restored. That is the spiritual problem we must face. Educationally, we need a mass education program. From the cradle to the grave, education and knowledge must be the key to the morning and the gate to the evening. We must love and crave knowledge in order for this country to be able to establish an infrastructure to support social and economic development. We must have a revision in the curriculum so we know what courses to study. Many students are at the university pursuing courses that have no relevance to the 21st century. When they graduate, they will be looking and searching for employment. Many will be frustrated and they will feel deceived because there will be few jobs in the areas they have majored. We have to know what to study to be prepared for the 21st century. Just being in college or in high school is not enough. We have to know where our course of study fits in to the picture of survival and prosperity. We cannot spend 3 and 5 times more on white education than we do on black education. Cannot continue if you expect to develop an educational structure that's functional and reliable. There's some 4 million black youth scattered around this country who dropped out of school in the 70s and who are now virtually functionally illiterate. Where will they work? Will you now tell them to go back to school after they have reached the age of 28 and 29 and 30? When they have been told that they had paid their dues and they had made their contribution to freedom? Are you now in 1990 telling them you made a mistake? To be free is to have an education. How will you instill the motivation? You can build all the schools you want, but without motivation, we are not prepared to bring prosperity to this country. Motivation means something that you crave, not television programs, and not magazines and not dances. Knowledge, craving it, craving it. I want knowledge. From the senior citizen to the young child, we have to have an environment where knowledge is the object of our pursuit. That does not exist today among the vast majority of this great country. The family must be restored. The family has been destroyed. The lack of respect for women has become atrocious. Abuse of children, alcoholism, tribalism. These ills must be corrected if we are seriously going to ask the three categories of institutions to contribute to the prosperity in the 20th and 21st century. The solutions take very little time to describe, but they form the master plan. Educationally, we know what we have to do. Mass education, signs on the businesses, on the telephone poles, all through the homelands. Education! Education, education. We have to have it or we have no future. Spiritually, we have to restore the respect for the people, for themselves and their community. That also can be done, but it cannot be done if the people do not know their history. They have been taught that they have never done anything in this world, that people of African descent are inferior. They have been taught that Africans will never be able to do anything, that they must always look to white people. They have been taught that God is white, Jesus is white, Mary is white, Moses is white, and everyone in the Bible is white. And this has been beaten into them year after year after year. It has robbed them of their sense of balance. We must not lie. We must not distort, but we must tell the truth. We must tell our brothers in Africa the kind of civilization they had in this country before the Dutch came in 1652. We know about that because of the writings of Mr. Jan van Veach. We know. We know from the diaries of shipwrecked seamen right off the Cape and Natal, the Chief Nisi boat. The men stayed in the interior for about 6 years, and they described the life of the African people. The people in Africa need to know that because it will restore in them a sense of future. The African people, according to the sailors, were not shiftless, were not lazy, were not alcoholics. Before the Dutch came, we need to go back and teach about the blast furnace. It's only 1,000 miles in the interior that the Soto tribe used to make copper. They made a blast furnace over 2,000 years ago. Over 2,000 years ago. A blast furnace, and the temperature was raised to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is what the sea sailors said. They described it. They talked about the knives and the spears that the African people made. Subsequently, they were taught they had done nothing. We need to go back to Egypt and go back to Zimbabwe and go back to the Mandingos and go all the way to Mexico and see the Aztecs to get the real history of our people so that we rebuild the personality of all the people in this country.